Hi there, and welcome to the Google Ads Fundamentals Part 2 live session. For those of you who missed Part 1, you can find the link to the video in the description below. For those of you who've already watched Part 1, welcome back. In this session, I'd like to give you a live demo and show you how to set up a search campaign on Google Ads. My name is Lisa Preuss, and I'm the founder and managing partner of an online marketing agency called LeClick. I'm also one of 9 Google certified trainers here in Switzerland. And thrilled to welcome you to today's agenda, where we'll be looking at the structure of a Google Ads account as a quick refresher, and then dive right in to how to create a Google Ads search campaign. After that, we'll review the different keyword options and then check out how to text an ad and what to keep in mind from a policy perspective. Also, I'll give you a sneak peek preview of some very helpful tools, and we'll have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the comment section to your right. One more thing before we get started. If you have any questions or want to check out more resources, then don't miss the Google Ads Help Center. They have loads of information all about Google Ads. And with that said, let's dive right in to the structure of a Google Ads account. Now, a Google Ads account has several different layers. We have the account itself, in which you can set up different logins, the time zone you'd like the account to be set up in, as well as the currency and the invoicing details. Within a Google Ads account, you can have several different campaigns. And here, you can choose when the start and end date of that campaign is, as well as its daily budget options, like should the daily budget be used up in a standard method or in an accelerated method, the location and language targeting, as well as options for ad rotation, and whether you want that campaign to be displayed in the search network or the display network. Within one campaign, you can have many different ad groups, and on the ad group level, you match different keywords you'd like to bid on with the ad texts that you would like users to see when they're searching for these terms. Also, you can set additional targeting options. Now, if we look at this from an example, let's say we take Mr. Benelli, who is a gentleman with an Italian specialty store in the heart of Geneva, and he's just set up an e-shop. Now, of course, he's put all his products into this e-shop, but notices quickly that he doesn't have the traffic that he was hoping for. And so now he'd like to set up Google Ads campaigns for his best sellers, oil and vinegar. Now, what he does is he decides to set up one campaign for oil so that he can set a daily budget for that, and creates 2 ad groups within that campaign. One ad group is for olive oil and all of his olive oil products, and another ad group is for linseed oil and all of the linseed oil products. He also creates a second campaign dedicated towards his vinegar products, and here he can also set a separate daily budget from his oil campaign. Within his vinegar campaign, he has 2 ad groups, one dedicated towards his apple vinegar products and another for his regular vinegar products. And now, how to go about this from an advertiser's perspective. What Mr. Benelli will have done is, first off, written a big, long keyword list. Here, you really want to get all those different keywords you think your target audience will be searching for, and then go out and ask them, speak with your target audience and make sure that any search terms that they may be using when searching for your products or services are also included on your keyword list. And then what you want to do is group those keywords so that each of them has one topic. In Mr. Benelli's case, we soon see that there's a little group of olive oil keywords, a group of vinegar keywords, and another group of apple vinegar keywords. And these are the basis for his ad groups. Now, using these keywords, he can get inspired and start texting an ad. That way, when a user searches for one of these keywords, they will see the text ad that he's written specifically for those keywords, which also gives him a really good quality score because they're relevant. And now we will dive into an actual Google Ads account. Now, for those of you who don't already have a Google Ads account, you can easily set one up by visiting google.ch or google.at or google.com/ads. Now, once you've reached this page, make sure you're not on the overview rubric, but actually under advanced campaigns. Now from here, what you want to do is click Get Started Now. It's very important you do this from this rubric, otherwise we won't have all the settings that we have if we set it up under advanced campaigns, and you'll see what I mean in just a bit. Here we can select with which account we would like to go into Google Ads, or if we'd like to create a new ads account. Since we're creating a new one, we click on New, and you'll see the first thing we're asked once everything is loaded is, what is our campaign goal? So you really need to think about that when setting up your first Google Ads campaign. What's the goal you want to achieve with your campaign? Would you like more sales? Would you like to generate more leads? Would you like more website traffic? Or product and brand consideration? Do you want more brand awareness and reach? Or do you want to promote your app? Now, you'll notice that when I click on any one of these campaign goals, it pre-selects the different campaign types that will help me reach that goal. Of course, while product and brand consideration may be your goal, Mr. Benelli, he wants more website traffic. And so you'll see we have different campaign types that he can use to try and reach that goal. If we were to select no goal, you would see the full selection of the different campaign types. We can create a search campaign, and like the name suggests, this campaign would be shown on the Google search and could also be shown on Google's partner search sites. And basically, the really cool thing about the search network is that this is where you can reach out to users who are actively searching for something. The display network, this is more for advertisers who are looking to generate more brand awareness and let users know about their products and services. And while YouTube is actually part of the display network, as is Gmail and other Google products, there are over 3 million sites and blogs and news outlets, you name it, that are also part of this display network and that are willing to show the banners or videos that you set up so that you can reach users who aren't necessarily searching, but who are surfing. A video campaign is obviously great if you have a video format that you would like as an ad. The app campaign is super for an ad that you would like to promote. We also have the smart campaign, which you can set up if you really don't have much time. There are only a few clicks necessary for you to set this one up. The only disadvantage is it doesn't give you quite the settings that you have and the options that you have if you were to set up a search and or a display network. So Mr. Benelli is inclined to do this search network for now. But for those of you who also know the shopping campaigns, this is a great campaign type if you have products that you would like to display on the Google search with a little picture, also with the price and with the brand name. Discovery ads can also be very useful, and they will be shown in the discovery feed or on YouTube or Gmail. Mr. Benelli, though, is going to opt for this search campaign for now. Next, he has to choose the results that he hopes to get from this campaign. Now, since he doesn't have an app, and phone calls are nice, but he'd really like more traffic, he's going to opt for website visits. And he can enter his URL in here. And then click continue. Next up, you get to create a campaign name. Now, I highly recommend that you start off with the country that this campaign is intended for and the language, and then you can add your name. Then you can select in which network you would like it to be shown. Of course, by default, a search campaign will be shown in the search network. And I'm going to keep the search partners sites in here as well, but I will remove the Google Display Network for now so that we're fully on search with this. Under more settings, you can then select a campaign start and end date. What I recommend here is not to start the campaign the day that you actually set it up on, but earliest the following day, just so that this way you'll actually have full data from the whole entire day and you're not missing out. That way you can also compare this day better with other days and see whether or not it performs better or less better than any other day. The end date can be set, especially if you're doing a campaign for a certain promotion. You might want to end this on the day the promotion ends. As for Mr. Benelli, he's going to opt for no end date just yet. Next, he can insert campaign URL options, and this is great for those of you who have third-party tracking parameters that they need to insert here, which you can easily do. As for Mr. Benelli, he doesn't use any third-party tracking tools, so he doesn't need to insert any custom parameters here. And here we have the chance to add dynamic search ads. But as this will be a topic in the next video, we will move right along and have a look at our targeting options and audiences. Now, firstly, it's important to set your location right. This means you get to decide where your ad is displayed. For those of you who want to set up an international campaign, go ahead. You can select all countries and territories, and it will show your ad everywhere people are searching for these keywords for. For those of you who want just a national campaign, you can select the country of your choice. Or for those of you who are looking to do very local campaigns, you can easily enter another location or go to the advanced search here and even create a radius. So seeing as Mr. Benelli's store is in Geneva, he could target a 20-kilometer radius around Geneva. And the cool thing is he can even exclude. Let's say the airport. Now you can see this is his targeted location, and here he has excluded a location, which is also visually shown on this map. If we click Save, it'll automatically appear here. But again, since Mr. Benelli's eShop is relevant for all of Switzerland, he can opt for the country of Switzerland here. Now, under location options, we can select exactly where we want our campaign to be targeted towards, meaning whether or not we want people who are geographically in this region or those who show interest, which is this recommended location here, or we can say we would only like it to be displayed to people who are geographically in our targeted region or regularly in this region, or we can only target people who are searching for this targeted location or region. In other words, while this may make sense for many services, this here is actually much more suited towards products that can only be delivered within certain geographical boundaries. In our case, we really only want to target people who are geographically in Switzerland. The tourism industry may like to opt for this last targeting option though, because they're less interested in people who are already in a certain city and far more interested in those who are searching for a certain city or showing interest in that city. And it's the same with the excluded options. You can say you'd like to exclude people who are in these excluded locations, or you can exclude people who are either in or show interest in these excluded locations. For Mr. Benelli, this option will do, and he's fine also to exclude people who are geographically at his excluded locations, which I'm noticing now we don't have anymore, and could easily add. Also, by going here and selecting countries around Switzerland. So for example, Germany or France or Italy may be his excluded locations. But again, if we're targeting Switzerland for now, I think this will be fine. Moving on to the languages. Here, we can select all languages because we'll be entering keywords that are already language specific because they will be English keywords. Then again, it does make sense to exclude some languages here, especially for brand campaigns. You see, because your brand keywords are typically going to be the same no matter which language preference someone has. And so what you may want to do for brand campaigns is set up one brand campaign, let's say in French, one brand campaign in German. Obviously, this is only if your website is also in those languages. And for the third campaign and the English campaign, you can select all of the languages and take out French and German. So this way, If someone were to search for your brand name with a German language preference, they would see the German text ad. If someone were to search for your brand name with a French language preference, they would see the French ad. And anybody else would see the English ad. Again, in our case, it's safe to say that all our keywords will be in English, so we can leave all languages in the language targeting option. The audiences here are also really cool, because what you can do is you can add audiences that you can either target, which really narrows down the impressions and the clicks you'll be getting. But, and this is the recommended option, you can observe different audiences. And this gets very interesting because what you'll see is if you do search for specific audiences, in our case, let's say the foodies, very quickly you'll have ideas here that you can also add of different audiences that may be interested in your campaign. And these won't be solely targeted towards, but they'll be observed so you can easily adjust your bids for these audiences. You can also browse for some audiences like parents or different statuses or education or even homeowners versus renters. And there are many, many more audiences to check out here. We'll continue with the foodies audience for now and move right along to the budget. Now, this is a daily budget that you can set up. And in our case, Mr. Benelli is willing to spend about 10 francs a day on his oil campaign. Still, he will notice that there may be days where this max budget that he's inserted is actually not only just used up, but Google Ads uses up more than that average amount. And there are other days where it'll again compensate. And this totally depends on, for example, the search volume. There will be days with a higher search volume that may go over budget, but there will also be days with lower search volume that will make sure to compensate for that. So that all in all, you never have to spend more than this daily budget that you've entered here times 30.4. Next up, we can select the bidding strategy. Now, of course, by default, since we haven't set up conversion tracking, we can opt for clicks or impression share. With regards to impression share, we can see that we're immediately asked where we want our ads to appear, meaning we can select anywhere on the results page, the top or the absolute top. And if it's our goal to be at the absolute top 60% of the time, then this is just the right bidding strategy to use. Then again, Mr. Benelli wants traffic. It's much more important to him to generate clicks than it is to generate impressions on a certain part of the search results page. Therefore, he's going to opt for the clicks method. Now, you can select a bid strategy directly, in which case you see the full list of bidding strategies. But for many of these, you need to have conversion tracking in place. So for example, target CPA, target cost per acquisition, lets you set a target for your conversions, for the cost you have per conversion. Target ROAS, target return on advertising spend, lets you gauge in percent how much you would like to gain from every investment that you make into Google Ads. There's also maximize conversions, or you can maximize your conversion value. And this can be very important, especially if you want to push sales. Whereas you're not so interested in selling as many products as possible, you're much, much more interested in selling the products that actually generate the most revenue. There is also the option to select manual CPC bidding, but this just means that you'll really need to spend a lot of time in your Google Ads account, and I therefore much more recommend these automated bidding strategies. In our case, we're going to maximize clicks, and what we can do is we can set a max CPC bid, so a max bid that we're willing to pay for one click. If we leave that though, Google Ads will automatically do the bidding for us. For those of you who would like to create a portfolio strategy, that's also possible here. And that means that you'd like to share this bidding strategy with other campaigns for later. Again, those of you who have conversion tracking in place can then also select which conversions to optimize for. Even Mr. Bonelli can then create an ad schedule. Does he want his ad to be displayed every day, all day, or only from Monday through Friday? And then you can even select from when to when. And this is extremely helpful for, let's say, a pizza delivery service that may want to especially push their pizza during lunch hours or in the evenings. As for Mr. Bonelli, he's fine to have his ad displayed at all times because he will be directing people to his eShop, and doesn't matter whether that's by day or by night. And here we can choose which ad rotation we would like to have used in for our campaign, whether or not our best performing ads are preferred or there's no preference and all of our ads are rotated indefinitely. As you can see though, this is chosen by default and I would recommend to use that option. Lastly, we can add some ad extensions here, although we will be looking into this in more detail during the next video. So for now, I'll click Save and Continue so that we can set up our ad groups. Now, the first thing we'll be asked to do is, of course, to add keywords. Now, if we'd like to do one ad group tailored towards our olive oil products, then we can easily add olive oil to this section here and get some good ideas from the keyword planner. Now, before we select which of these keywords we'd like to add, I'd quickly like to give you another look at the keyword options. Now, if Mr. Bonelli were to bid on the keyword olive oil and a user were to search for, let's say, buy olive oil, then chances are his ad is triggered. But now what if a user is looking for olive oil for free? Since Mr. Benelli is bidding on olive oil, even though this search term is actually not very relevant for him, again, his ad is likely to be triggered. Unfortunately for Mr. Benelli, the user has clicked on his ad, and with that, the daily budget is all used up. So now when a user searches for high quality olive oil, which would be the perfect potential customer for Mr. Benelli, his ad is not triggered. And to make sure that doesn't happen to you, I'd like to take you through the different keyword matching options. First, we have broad match. Now by default, if you add a keyword, it'll be a broad match keyword, meaning that if someone searches for this term or a similar variant or a synonym, etc., the ad will be triggered. At least it can be triggered. If you add a plus before each word, it's no longer a broad keyword, it's a broad match modified keyword, meaning that now a user actually has to search for each of these words or close variants. When one of these is missing, the ad does not trigger. If you want to be even more granular, you can use phrase match. And this is when you put the keywords into quotation marks. And what it means is that when a user searches for this phrase, and there can be words before the phrase or after the phrase in the search query, because then the keyword will be triggered, but if there's any word in between that phrase, the ad will not be triggered. And that brings us to exact match. This is the most granular keyword matching option. Here you add a keyword in square brackets, meaning that when a user searches for that exact term or a very close variant, the ad can be triggered. As soon as it's too different, the ad is not triggered. There's also the negative keywords, and these can be added with a minus before that word to make sure that when this term is searched for, your ad is not triggered. Again, if we take Mr. Benelli and he were to add production as a negative keyword, even if olive oil is a broad match keyword, if someone were to search for olive oil in combination with production, the ad would not be triggered. Now, if you're wondering how to go about this, well, there are advantages and disadvantages for both broad match and exact match. Of course, if you use more broad match keywords, the ad is likely to be triggered for many search queries, and it'll also generally give you more impressions and clicks. But the ad may also be triggered with irrelevant search queries and give you clicks through those irrelevant queries. Not to mention, you really need to spend time managing and constantly updating your negative keywords. As for those who like to use the exact match keyword option, this of course gives you much more control over when your ad is triggered, and you don't need to add negative keywords. But you may also be missing out, because at the end of the day, your ad may also not be displayed for relevant queries, meaning, all in all, fewer impressions and fewer clicks. And with that, let's dive right back into our keyword list. Now, of course, organic olive oil is great and pure. And as you see, we've added all of these in as broad match keywords. We can, of course, make them broad match modified And of course, we'll want to make sure to add our negative keyword, production. Now we can click on Save and Continue. And we will be prompted to creating our very own text ads. Now, as we'll be doing this in depth throughout the next video, I'd like to quickly show you what kinds of options you have and what to keep in mind from a policy perspective. For one, always make sure to have at least 2 text ads. Better would be 3 to 5, but make sure you have at least 2, because only then will our advertisement method have any influence at all over which ad is shown. As mentioned, there was the even ad rotation, which will have both ads participate in the auctions regardless of their click-through rate or conversion rate, but we chose the performance-based ad rotation, which also means that Google Ads will help us optimize the whole user experience by having the ad with the higher click-through rate or conversion rate participate in more auctions. Now, in case you're wondering how you can pimp your first ad or alter it for a cooler, better, catchier second ad, well, I'd like to show you the following example. So Mr. Benelli also tried to create a second text ad that's even catchier and soon learned that this was disapproved. Here's what you need to know. First of all, the editorial policy is all about giving the user the best possible user experience. And to do that, it's important that the ads are relevant, honest, and informative. Now, with regards to how a text ad is set up, we have the headlines at the top, and you can add up to 3 with max 30 characters each, of which 2 will mostly be shown. You can then also add the display URL, and this is the URL that's shown in the ad. It's not your final URL, but it's what you'd like the user to see in the ad. And you can customize it by adding 2 times 15 characters to the end of your website name. And we have the description. And here you can add up to 2 descriptions with max 90 characters each, of which 1 will be shown at a time. And the cool thing is that giving Google Ads these different options will allow it to use machine learning to automatically adjust those ads based on different user signals, like when were the user searching, with which operating system, with which browser, which device, in which language, and from where. A few more things to keep in mind. One, regarding your landing page. Your website cannot be under construction. It's important to note that this may be one reason why an ad is disapproved. Also, loading can't require additional software like the Adobe Acrobat, so you can't link to a PDF. There shouldn't be any pop-ups or pop-unders on your landing page, and the original function of a browser's back button always needs to be intact. Also, punctuation, capitalization, and spacing is important. Make sure you don't have any unnecessary punctuation, you use spaces correctly, there's no exclamation marks in your headline, and only 1 in your description. The last line shouldn't lead over into anything suggestive or use a colon, as you can see here. There shouldn't be any unnecessary capitalization, and symbols, numbers, and characters need to be used properly. Also, watch out for spelling and grammar mistakes. And while this may seem very banal, for those of you who are not English native speakers, just ask someone to quickly review it and you'll already not risk having an ad be disapproved for these reasons. Now, again, no spelling or grammar mistakes are allowed. Prices and free offers need to be verified within 1 to 2 clicks of the landing page. Superlatives like best or number one have to be verified by third parties on that landing page. Phrasings with click are not allowed, and comparative statements need to be verified on the landing page. One last thing regarding trademarks. Regular trademark law applies to Google Ads, meaning that while you can't just add a trademark to your ad text without the proper authorization, you can bid on a trademark or brand name as a keyword. Just don't be surprised when the other brand notices this and starts bidding on your brand name. In which case, I recommend you do a gentleman's agreement in which both parties agree that they won't bid on each other's brand names. Now, with that in mind, it's up to you to text that wonderful and especially relevant, helpful, informative text ad here. And you can always check out the preview here, either for mobile or for desktop. Again, we will skip this for now and move right along in our campaign, where we have to confirm our payment information and can then easily set up our first Google Ads campaign. Now, with regards to some helpful tools I'd like to show you, first of all, there's Google Trends. Now, Google Trends is a great place to explore different search terms. For example, olive oil, and we can even compare that to another keyword. And by checking out the interest over time, see which one has more search volume. Please notice, though, that the results here are not in absolute values, but relative to the 100% that was reached here. This is then also broken down into subregions. And you can check it out for other countries as well, or on a worldwide basis. Next up, we have our keyword planner. And this is a really great tool to help you find more keyword ideas. I'll show you where it's located. So you can visit it by going to Tools and Settings, Planning, and it's here under Keyword Planner. Now, while we saw a little sneak a little sneak peek preview of it earlier while setting up the campaign, this is the real deal. So you can either discover new keywords, especially if you're still unsure or your keyword list isn't quite complete, or you can get search volume and forecasts. And you can see here different values with which we as advertisers can calculate with for certain keywords. Another really great tool is the Ad Preview and Diagnosis tool. Now, this is also found in your Google Ads account, and I'll show you what it does. Again, you go to Tools and Settings, and under Planning, it's this one right here. And once that campaign has gone live, you can actually search for the keywords that you're bidding on and see whether or not your ad is being displayed. So if we were to take Switzerland, English, and now search for buy olive oil, we get to see a real preview of actual mobile search results. Of course, our ad hasn't yet started running, so we're not expecting it to show yet, but once that campaign does begin, we can see whether or not our ad is showing without negatively impacting the click-through rate. Because of course, if you search for your own keywords on the actual Google search and you don't click, that's not a good sign that you're sending to Google Ads. In fact, an impression but no click means that your click-through rate will go down. Therefore, this is where you'll want to be testing out those and searching for those keywords to see whether or not your ad is showing. You'll also find information with regards to why an ad isn't displaying, and you can even change the device to see how it's showing on other devices. And if or if not, it's actually there. With that said, I'm happy to open a quick Q&A session. So if you have any questions or you've been saving up those questions till the end, you're welcome to ask now. Also, for those of you who are watching this as a recording, you're still more than welcome to ask your questions in the comment section, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. Seems all clear, which makes me very happy to hear. And with that said, you can find more online resources here. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Let me know how you like this video and if there's anything you'd like me to show you in the upcoming video, either by entering the short URL or scanning in the QR code. Thanks so much for your feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel. And thank you for watching.